how the halachic process works on a human level, which opens up various areas of debate and discussion. See, people perceive there to be a realm of halacha where there's disagreements and discussion of what the halachically correct issue is. Is it kosher, is it not kosher? Disagreement based upon textual analysis and so forth. Okay? And that's a world of learning. And that you can see when you're learning in the Gemara. You see disagreements, you know, anything you learn, you know, there's different pshatim, there's different things like that. Okay. What happens in the realm of halacha is really a two-stage process. And most people don't recognize the existence of the first stage. See, people think they ask a halachic question. There's going to be the stage of analysis, and the person's going to look at it, look at the Gemaras, look at things, like, is this position, is that position, so forth and so forth. What people don't recognize is this world that I would call as pre-halachic. And that is a world where you basically come out at certain viewpoints that will affect you and motivate you in how you look at halacha. Okay? So for example, halacha itself is not supposed to be subjective.
Right.
You look at halacha and you come out, which one do you think is the right pshat?
We said it was.
The real realm of the subjectivity, well, there's a certain idea of subjectivity, of a passive subjectivity, where I think that this is right, you think that is right. But the point is that's a shekel of das, of my own perception of what I think is right and wrong. But the fact is, when you're talking about a much more active subjectivity, it's I like this, therefore I want it to be right. Okay? The fact is that when you make a psak, you're not supposed to make a psak because you like the consequences of the psak. You're supposed to make the psak because you think it is the right thing.
Right.
You think it's the right shot. So when two rabbis disagree, they disagree in some intellectual perception what they think is correct or not. But they're not supposed to say, hey, I like this viewpoint, therefore let that be the halacha. It's not supposed to be a subjective choice based on what I like better. However, before you get to halachic analysis, there's a realm that I call the pre-halacha. And that is something that colors your motivation, your investigation. A person asks you a question. What's your gut reaction to it? And how motivated are you in trying to find a heter or not trying to find a heter? Or in trying to find a halachic conclusion that is in line with what you want. Okay? So for example, I once had a case with a Kohen who was going out with a woman which technically was halachically a zona, or the argument was she was a zona, which is a woman that a Kohen could not marry. Okay? And basically, one of the ways a woman becomes a zona is she had relations with a non-Jew. So this woman said she had relations with a non-Jew, therefore it created a situation of a difficulty in her going out with a Kohen. Okay. So the point is that what do? How do you approach this? There's this couple, they're going out, they've gone out for 6 months, and they seem really to be in love and so forth. And it seems that there's a halachic problem here and then continue here or not. So on the surface it seems to be that that's it, it's all certain, can't go on. Okay? So when this question came up to me, I was very motivated to find a heter. Why? Because first of all, they were looking for a heter, so I'd like to satisfy. Second of all, I'm a romantic, and you know, you're romantic, they're in love, you know, in favor of it, and so forth and so forth. And we wanted to approach certain individuals, you know, gedolim, individuals who knew what they were talking about, and see if they could work at a heter. So there was one person who had connections with someone. I said, why don't you ask this person? There was me and another Rav who, you know, young guys and so forth and so forth. And he had some connection with someone who had standing, you know, status, I mean, an elder man, an older person. I said, why don't you go ask him? Maybe he knows a sad heter. He looked at me and says, you really don't know him, do you? I said, not really. He said, well, there's always another bus. In other words, his attitude was, the attitude of this individual was, it's us, sir, let him find another girl, let her find another guy. Okay? Now, if you're romantic, you look upon that as somewhat negative. But if you look at it and say, hey, listen, yeah, but wait a second, you know, his attitude was, can't marry this one, so there's another nice girl. He did not have the same perception of this uniqueness of the relationship.
Takes out like care and emotion.
Well, the emotion is there's many nice women out there, and you know, you know, there's, you know, doesn't have to be it's not necessarily a special one. It's, you know.
What about the idea of if there is someone?
Okay, so it's not so simple. When you get into that discussion, that leads to another discussion. But you see, you're already getting into discussion of the pre-halacha. You see, so the fact is on the surface, Cohen can't marry Zona, and it seems to be that this is the law. This is straightforward law, black and white. This is it. So now you're sitting there and saying, can I find a heter? Okay? And by saying you're finding a heter, what you're saying is, number one, you're saying, I'm willing to put in the time to investigate if there's some way to permit this. And second of all, what you're also saying is the general rule, the general statement that a Kohen can't marry a Zona, which seems to be the broad definition in this case. You're going to hope to find a way around it, okay? And it might be you're going to find a halachically valid way around it, but the fact is, okay. So there's a question of motivation, how much time you're going to go put into it. You know, you're willing to say, hey, put time into it, and you're willing to say, I give value to trying to find an answer to this relationship, even though it will mean that the broad law has to be played with or whatever. So the fact is that what this person was saying was this gadol, this individual, would say the law is pretty black and white. Right. I'm not willing to put in that kind of effort to try and find some heter. I mostly won't be happy with any heter anyways. Right. And I'm not so motivated because there's many nice women. So it's not this one. There'll be another one. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's not the end of the world.
It's not like some little town with one Jewish woman.
Right, right. You know. So obviously he's
not. It could seem like that. That's so difficult.
So he obviously is not a romantic.
Right.
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 And for many people who've dated, who are dating, even trying to find the one, even without being a romantic. It's not so easy to find one to connect. But the point is that decision of whether you're going to be motivated to investigate, that decision of whether you're going to believe that there's a heter that you're willing to work for, that's a realm that comes before your halachic analysis. Now that discussion in itself might be a discussion. What you said beforehand, what about the statement of Beshert? If you take a straightforward concept of Beshert, it seems to imply that there's one special person for you. The answer of another person will be, yes, but that special person to you won't be usher to you. Right? So that therefore, that argument of Beshert, you can turn the other way and say,
if it's a sheksa,
if you say turn the other way,
that person isn't actually what you think is your Beshert. There's someone that halakhically is your Beshert, that is your true the person.
Right, but that's the point. The point is that if it's usher to you, it can't be your Beshert. Right?
Okay.
That's another argument. You turn it the other way around.
Right.
Right? So the point is that there really are two forums of discussion that are very much involved in the halachic process. One is the forum of discussion of what your motivation is, what you want to see, what direction you're going to take. Then there's halachic analysis. Now, what happens is oftentimes area A may totally downplay area B. And a lot of people think that once they work out a hashkafic argument or a pre-halachic argument, then they sit there and say, well, the halach will fall into place. It's not so simple. It's for sure not so simple. Other people, a lot of times they'll take the halacha black and white in its non-investigated area and basically say, and this is the way it should be. And you see this. You see this in the sense that a person will take that not in terms of this individual, a person will say, halach was saying black that calling kamei zona, that's right, and it must be that this is good, and therefore if you're giving arguments why you should be motivated to analyze halacha, he'll stop in your track and say, no, you're wrong. On the other hand, what you have is this area pre-halacha that is an area of investigating almost what direction do you want to take the halacha in. Now, that area, that came up when you asked that question last week about conservative Judaism. In the sense that conservative Judaism, there's a whole issue about how they did their halachic analysis. But it started with a pre-halachic perception of, I want A. I want to go in this direction. And the point is that in that motivation of saying, I want to go in this direction, you basically say, well, you're sort of like writing the halacha the way you want it. But the fact is that has existed in all halachic analysis, because there's always been a pre-halachic perception of what way do you want to go. And that's where you get into certain, hashkafic statements. Okay? Yeah.
So can you have a shaila that's... Sorry, can you poskin a shaila that is completely subjective? I mean,
no.
Sorry, not subjective. Not subjective. Is the wrong word.
Objective. You mean objective, the opposite, or?
No, not objective. Those are the wrong words. Where you basically don't just on without actually putting some sort of emphasis on the outcome. Just looking at the facts. So actually trying to get.
The fact is that when you actually do the halachic analysis, the call is to try and be as objective as possible, and see it and call it the way you see it. In other words, what usually happens is that the pre-halachic tells you something about what your motivation will be. and how you're going to approach it.
Right.
But in the end, when you actually do your halachic analysis, one of the things that I believe very strongly about what I find to be an orthodox psak, like a truly halachic psak, is in the end, the posek who's making that decision, usually, I would say, not just usually, but I would say, believes that that's shot. In other words,
What do you mean? They believe that's
that really is the way. They really believe that that's the way.
So they
to
made up their minds already how they
no, not that. They were in other words.
Seems like
they're
that's the
motivated.
They follow their halachic, like in Gemara, that school of that rabbi, they followed that direct way.
But they.
There's bias.
It's not. It's no. It's that there is a.
Here's another example.
Yeah.
Kasher.
Yeah.
Okay, you go to a Rav with a question about you messed up with a pot or something like
Right.
that. So the Rav knows either, if he's dealing with someone who's really poor, who he knows can't afford to throw their pot out to go buy a new one, he's going to find every way possible to get that kasher, to make it okay.
Right.
Where the next person, he'll say, get rid of it, just
right. Okay.
go get a new one.
The example is, what you're saying is like this, is that what happens is that if a poor person came to you, I think I heard this, he said, I think Price used to say this, when people in the old country came to a Rav with a chicken, right? They understood this was the only chicken they had. They couldn't just go buy another chicken, and it's going to end up being that if you say it's usher, it's not going to have chicken for Shabbos. Now, is he going to say that it's kosher because the person's poor? No, he's not going to say he's motivated. But he says, but in Europe, you'd stay up all night trying to work out a way to figure out that the chicken is kosher.
Hold on, just
but in the end, when you say that chicken is kosher, it's not because of the fact that the guy's poor. It's the fact that the person was poor motivated you to work through the halacha to come to a conclusion that you believe objectively states that the chicken is kosher.
So hold on, I just expand on what Mindy's saying and get a little bit more technical. When you have halachic process, from my understanding, there are a number of opinions out there. So to do a completely holistic research will probably take.
So there's certain ways.
If you're a knowledgeable person on the halacha, you know which references would give you more.
What to bring up
but the truth is that then there's analysis, rereading it to see what exactly the person is saying. See, let me see an example. Minnie's example is an interesting example.
Right.
So when you say that person's poor, this person's going to work and come up and say, I found it a way that you could say this chicken is kosher. Okay. But if a person was wealthy, you would say, give it out. Give it to your non-Jewish maid or whatever. Why? But what is? You've already come to the conclusion the chicken is kosher.
Right.
Now, maybe if it was a rich person asking the question, you wouldn't have worked on it so much. But now that you worked on it and you came to this conclusion that it's okay, when the rich person with the same issue also goes. So the truth of the matter is that yields a tremendous question in the Shulchan Aruch. When you do have those cases where it says behefsid meruba yigol l'kula, because it's a great loss, what exactly is being said? So the point is that what you can say is that there are variant opinions, and the fact is this is the way that this is one way of understanding it from my perspective that I think is that when the Ramah says behefsid meruba, you can rely upon this opinion, which means is that because of great loss, this is the way, this is why it's permitted. What he's saying is like this. There are a variety of positions here. Some people say asur, some people say mutter. Okay? Now watch this. When the Ramah says hefsed meruba, the way I understand, or the way I was taught it, okay, I don't remember who taught this to me, but the way I understood it, the way I've been sort of taught to understand it is that what the Ramah really holds, lahalacha, is that really it is mutter. Okay? In other words, he really holds that the objective decision is pursuant to those opinions that say this is mutter. But he says in most cases, for most people, because there are a variety of opinions who are more machmir, right? The general populace should be machmir. Okay? However, behefsed meruba, when there's a tremendous loss, when there's a potential for tremendous loss, then you can go back to the bottom line acceptable halacha, which is mutter.
Which is interesting to begin with, because you initially spoke about with the previous shiurim that halacha is subjective. It really is. That idea of chisar and kiss and hefsek meruba, it really...
It's not... Okay, the point is that there is a subjectivity, but as I said, you see, any time the human being is called into making decisions, okay, whenever you are called in to make a judgment call, there's different aspects of judgment calls.
Yeah.
There's the judgment call of what's better, Coke or Pepsi, right? That's dependent upon your own subjective taste. It's which one do you like.
Right.
There's another judgment call. Let's say, in the realm of psychology. Are you a Freudian or are you a Skinnerian? What does that mean? Is that this guy, Sigmund Freud had certain theories of the basis of human behavior, and this other guy, B.F. Skinner, had other viewpoints on how to deal with human behavior. And they both ran experiments, and the experiments could be explained according to both of those theories. In other words, if you were able to show one guy to be totally objectively wrong, then that theory would be thrown out. But here you have it worked out, and here you have these theories, and these theories are able to explain every phenomena pursuant to their theory. Okay? So then, which theory are you going to accept?
Right.
Okay? Because you can't make the decision based upon the objective parameters of right and wrong or whatever, because every argument has, and you find this a lot in the social sciences, in economics, between monetarists and Keynesians, in everything. And lahavdil, you find this very much so in halacha. And if you really do an analysis, you see in the Gemara, when the Gemara ends up to yufta, the so-and-so to yufta, that is because they objectively showed that this position yields a conclusion that is objectively problematic, it's illogical, can't work, so they can dismiss that theory. But when you really work out a theory, if you really want to work out a theory, you take all the sources and you see that this is the way Tosfos must learn all these Gemaras. This is the way the Rambam must learn all these Gemaras. This is the way Rashi must learn all these Gemaras. And you have it all worked out and so forth and so forth. And in the end, you can't say that one is objectively right, because this one is able to explain all the sources pursuant to one theory. This one is able to explain all the sources pursuant to another theory. And this one is able to explain all the sources pursuant to another theory. So then, how do you deal with that? It always gets me when people like I remember once, I remember once talking to someone, and a person saying something about the Satmar Rav and the Gemara about the oaths and so forth and so forth. And I was looking at What do you think? Does CHABURA doesn't know that Gemara? What do you think? CHABURA hasn't worked it out? Well, it does. It's like this. And he says, you don't think the CHABURA has an answer to your question? And I go up to some other person. Like I always find this, people. They say like I'd go to Rabbi Soloveitchik and I'd say this and this. I'd look at the person and say, do you actually think that the Rab didn't know that Gemara and had already had an answer for that? Yeah. Are you that stupid? Mm-hmm. And you don't think the Satmar Rav knew that Gemara and answered? Like people walk around like, if I would know this,
personal.
Right, like I know if I had him, I'd throw this Gemara. What do you don't think these people know? They know it, and they have a way. Like when you brought up the question of Bishared, it's a good question. It's right on, right? So I tell you, yeah. Okay, so what does Bishared mean? So I have to know that it could be this, that theory, and so forth, different ways of understanding it. So the point is that once you have theories, you have different ways of explaining the theories. Now, a really consistent, acceptable opinion within Torah, like when you talk about one of the Achronim, Rishonim, they know all the Gemaras and they explain it. They worked it out. Okay, and they say this and they say this, and they work it out and say that. So the point is, they have a certain way of approaching it, a different shot in them, right? I was just speaking to my Rabbi, like his someone whose his son is marrying a woman whose father-in-law has the exact same name, right? So so the truth is, Sefer Hasidim says shouldn't do that, right? So the point of the matter is that the Sefer Hasidim says that, but you're not bound to the Sefer Hasidim. The fact is that if it doesn't bother you, it's okay, and this is that, and then my said, and the Chasam Sofer had a different way of learning the Sefer Hasidim, anyways. But in other ways, so the reason I'm pointing this out is that people throw out things to me sometimes, like a simple statement like this is the halacha, and I look at them and say, do you not think that the person who worked this out didn't know that Gemara? Yeah. Do you not think that this person knew that thing? The fact is, there's different pshatim on this.
So how do you? Yeah. So nowadays, right, and even then before, right, throughout Jewish history, there have been variants of opinions. There's variants of hashkafic and halachic opinion.
Let's distinguish halacha and halacha first.
Okay, fine.
What you said in terms of halacha is, what you're saying is, I'm trying to say that in the halachic structure, there are ways that people have theories that explain all the various Gemaras.
Right.
It seems to be you have contradictions between Gemaras, and they have different theories of ways of explaining it. Fine. Then, when you're given the various different theories, right? Then there is the reason why you like this theory versus that theory. Okay? In other words,
because they come up with a conclusion.
Now, what is it? So sometimes
you end up holding.
Right. So why is it that you go with this theory versus that theory? Now, there are two reasons usually. One or two sort of general perceptions. One is you like the methodology of halachic analysis, their process in terms of analysis and so forth and so forth. Right. The second one is there's something about the system that they've developed that you happen to like.
Although going on that, because there are cases, let's say, I think examples like milking meat, or when you have like a balchuva, which is in hugging. So like my understanding, if you were a maven, if you're a Rav, or if you know enough that you can say, I understand this logic, the methodology behind this shot or this outcome based on this approach, but I disagree with, but I like his methodology with this approach on a different topic, and I don't like his methodology on that topic. You kind of bounce around, and from my understanding, that's frowned upon.
The fact is you have to know the consistency of the ideas. In other words, the fact is the methodology may work in this Gemara, that methodology, but you have to make sure that there's no eventual steers or contradictions in the full analysis. In other words, you have to have a general picture of a more complete picture of what's happening.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, like, let's say you have Rabbi A, right?
Yeah.
And he has a whole methodology of why he doesn't like something.
Right.
And you happen, from your learning, you happen to like his methodology, and he's someone you can hold by.
Okay.
But then on another subject, you've done your research, and you think Rabbi A is missing, and you like Rabbi B's approach, and therefore
then
you want to hold by both to some
that is a possibility, as long as then you work out whether the case of A and the case of B are totally independent, or whether they will affect an overall general approach on something else. See, the point is that we in learning, a lot of times our learning is very micro-oriented, which means we look at very specific cases.
Right.
We analyze Chumash, we analyze the pasuk. I mean the pasuk. You know what I mean? Okay. The point is how often do you sit there and say, I'm going to read the whole Chumash, and I'm going to have a general perception of what Breitschus is about in the broad spectrum before I get into details. The point is that's much more of a macro analysis. And in that macro analysis, and how that connects with the micro analysis. In other words, in many ways, you can learn little Gemaras here and there. The truth is that this actually the difference between Rashi and Tosfos. Rashi is the master of the daf. What does it say here? Okay? Point blank. And usually, the way Rashi understands what's said right in the Gemara here usually makes more sense than what Tosfos comes up with. But what's Tosfos concerned? There's another Gemara over there that totally contradicts this. Okay? And if I learn this Gemara like the way Rashi's learning over there, then how do I drive it with that other Gemara? Okay? Therefore, I'm going to have to understand the language over here a little bit differently to make it drive with that other Gemara. And it's in this, and it's a case where the two people saying it are both the same people. So the fact is there's a macro perspective, and a micro perspective. So when you look at individual statements, like this rabbi here, I don't, but over there I don't. You then have to sit there and say, okay, but what's the whole macro perception?
Right.
But the fact is that when you look at it, for example, you look in the way general how people get into let's say being from, especially in terms of Bali Truvas and so forth and so forth. Okay. Whatever way they became from, usually there was an attraction to that method of being from that got them involved. And a lot of times they'll sit there, they sit there and say, this is the way that Judaism was taught to them from this perspective, and so forth and so forth. What I always find problematic, and that's a nice way of putting it, is when this person then gets into one of the sort of things that they now know Judaism. How could that person over there do that and that and that? And I'm looking at them. I remember one time hearing someone saying like blah 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 blah, and how could that Rav matter this and this? It was like a big Rav. I'm sitting there saying, you're wondering how that Rav could matter it in a way that is attacking him? I'll tell you what you should do. Go learn the Shulchan Aruch and sit there and say, how did that Rav matter cheat? What am I missing? Right. Right? The point is that if you get attracted on a certain level, then everyone, and a lot of times I see this in a lot of issues in terms of, what's
how long to wait is a classic example.
What?
How long to wait between milk and meat? How
long to wait between milk and meat? Why do you say it's a classic example?
Because I know about Chuvas, it's like, oh, we have to do 6 hours because there's that. And then there are people who do 3. And then there's the hour and a half. Because
there's so many groups, and they
don't really know it.
But the fact is that people really understand the machlokesim. Right, they were told 6 hours. So how could you wait 3? The truth of the matter is that go look at all the different shitas and then figure it out. But the point is that it's not so much that they were attracted to the 6 hours; they were attracted to that style of Judaism. Okay, like
But they're not.
I remember.
They're not aware of it. They're not aware of what style of Judaism is. It just means like
they're attracted to that style of Judaism because that's their lifestyle.
Right.
That's their lifestyle. Like for example, I'm thinking of an example in terms of like in terms of Eretz Yisrael. Some things about Eretz Yisrael, right? When people get upset from one viewpoint to the other viewpoint.
Right.
The truth of the matter is that you have strongly nationalistic people who take a certain viewpoint, and their nationalism drives with their viewpoint. So the fact is their subjective interest in nationalism drives with their viewpoint. Now, does that necessarily make it wrong? No, because in many ways it has motivated them to reinvestigate the halacha and analyze it and so forth and so forth. On the other hand, there's other people who have such a difficulty with nationalism, right, that they actually take a position the other way because they don't want to be nationalistic. And the point is what they're taught certain viewpoints or a certain perspective. They're taught it as the only perspective. But the point is that what we often don't recognize is that our own certain attraction to a certain style colors our style. People will look at me and they'll sit there and say that my style of Judaism is highly intellectual. That's my personality. Okay? And people will argue, will point that out, and so forth and so forth. What people are usually shocked is when I'll sit there and say, there's another Shita, let's say this other Hasidic Shita, which is not as highly, not to say there aren't intellectualism with Hasidus, but it's a much more emotional type of Judaism and so forth and so forth. There's a Shita within Torah, and they'll sit there and say, but you have problems with it, so why don't you accept that Shita? So the truth is, there's a side to me that says, I have a certain cheshek to this style, it connects to me, and the fact of the matter is then also when I learn, I see Judaism in the way that connects to me and somehow supports my viewpoint. But the fact is that in a certain way I'm attracted to it. I seem to have some kind of
like a value in it.
Right, and the fact of the matter is that I see two different. A lot of times I'll see two different viewpoints in a Gemara or two different viewpoints in something and so forth. I like this one. Is the other one wrong? No, the other one also could be fit into the language of the Gemara. It can also meet other positions. So why do I follow this one? Because somehow I choose this one. That's shikul hadas. And we're called upon to make that kind of decision. It has a certain subjectivity because I can't prove that I'm right, but I can sit there and say that's why I'm in. But the subjectivity is not necessarily an active because I like it. It has something to do with the fact that I think it's correct. I just think it's correct. Like, I'll give you an example on women learning Gemara. When my daughter came to me, I used to learn with my son's Gemara, so my daughter came to me before her bat mitzvah, and she wanted to learn Gemara. So I said to her, listen, if you want to learn Gemara, first of all, you have to, I don't want it to be just that you want to do it because men do it. Well, boys do it, so why can't I do it? You have to be really interested in Gemara. So I said, first of all, learn Mishnayos. I want you to spend some time learning Mishnayos, just on your own, which I had my boys do also. She was a real masmid. She just really kept learning Mishnayos and really into it, so forth and so forth. So eventually, I said to her, okay, so let's learn Gemara. Okay, and I became very proud of her in her learning Gemara. She really did quite well. You know what I mean? She does do quite well. When she was here, I used to have chavrusas with her, and she's pretty good person. And we're not just talking about little Gemara. When we learn Gemara, we're looking Rishonim, Achronim. Let's open up the. Okay. So the truth of the matter is she's okay. So the point is, well, what about the fact that the halacha says women can't learn Gemara? So the truth is
there halacha on that, or it's just a tradition?
No, the Rambam says also. The Shulchan Aruch says also. Okay, the fact of the matter is it doesn't really say also. It says if you do it, it's not a good thing. It's okay. It doesn't actually say also. It's not a good thing to do. So the fact is, if you really learn through the shittas and you learn through the analysis, it's not so simple. The fact of the matter really is not so simple.
Where is it coming from? Why?
From the Gemara. It's from the Gemara.
No, I'm saying why is it taking upon a woman?
So the fact is, the way I understand it.
Why is it bad thing?
So the way I understand it is that what is really to really learn. There's a concern. You know, a little bit of knowledge can be a little trouble, a little problem. Fact is the way I understand the Gemaras and so forth is that if a little bit of knowledge can be really a problem. Now, you have a problem. Men have a chiyuv of learning.
Right.
Therefore, with men, they have to learn. Now, is there going to be a problem because some men will only have a little bit of knowledge and that could be a problem? Yes. But you don't have a choice because men are supposed to learn. Women, the way I understand what is being said, if you look through the way that the people learn the Gemaras and so forth and a lot of different things, is that a woman who you see is really going to be into it and really learn very well, there was never a problem with a woman learning Gemara. See, one of the things that people don't recognize is that, and there's an interesting book out, All My Children Should Be Learned by Shoshana Zolti about the history of women learning Torah. It's remarkable. Like, for example, the person who edited the Maral Miprag's works was his wife. And she says in it, my husband made a few mistakes in sources. In other words, he got some Gemaras wrong, but he was really involved in learning. But she was able to correct the places where he got the sources wrong. So the Moral's wife was not a slouch. You know what I mean? So yes, right. So the point is, there are always women, like they say, Rashi's daughters. You know, were big Tamei Chacham on their own right. So the point is that if a woman is the concern of the Gemara is that when it says that if you teach a woman who's not really going to be into learning and has no chiyuv to learn and is not going to be a real thing that's going to push her to learn, a little bit of knowledge, that could be a problem.
Well, like Nashi Dasim Kalas.
Well, that's one source, but the fact is Kilo and the Trifas. It's the fact of the matter is that teaching anyone a little bit of knowledge can be problematic. With men, there's a chiyuv of learning, so therefore you can't just sit there and say don't have men learning at all. With women, you can sort of sit there and say, listen, if you're not going to be serious about this, better not to get involved. So that's the way I understand the way it's understood. That's the way I understand the statement over there. But in our age, and you see this from Rav Yoshe Ber, you know, the way the story was told to me was Yoshe Ber, when they started the Stern-based Medrash program, which was they started teaching Gemara at Stern College, it wanted to be clear that this was done with the okay of Rabbi Soloveitchik, of the Rav, right? So he was the first person to give a share in the Stern-based Medrash. He was the first person to give a share in that Medrash to the women. Okay, he learned. I think he learned something from Brachas, whatever it is. He gave a share. That was it. He didn't talk about women learning Gemara. He just gave a share, and that was it. And there was someone who asked a question who said, you know, people say this is us or how can you do it? He says, I think it's fine. If anyone's got a problem, give them my phone number and call me. Okay, that was the end of the discussion. There's someone I saw that there's never a discussion. There's never an issue within the modern Orthodox world of women learning Gemara because simply the Rav didn't say something, the Rav did. Once the Rav taught women, that was the end of the discussion. There's no one to want you.
Isn't that a problem to begin with, to have that kind of closed-mindedness? Like to say, like, because the Rav said it was mutter, then it's mutter. Because you don't...
within that, what he's saying is like this. So everyone will know, yes, other people say it's not mutter, but I'm a Talmud of the Rav. I'm in the world. He's talking within the modern Orthodox world, where the Rav is the Gadol of the modern Orthodox world. Right? If you're going to be, you're not going to have people in the modern Orthodox who are saying women shouldn't learn Gemara, without acknowledging that the Rav said it was mutter. You know what I mean? Without at least acknowledging. But are you going to have people still say it's also yes?
But isn't it a big, like, you can't just skirt over the fact of that, saying that that the male chiyuv is different than the female one. I mean, there is no female chiyuv. So
now I've always had a problem with that. The fact is that I've only saw one person deal with that issue, and that was Rabbi Moshe Meiselman in his book on Women in Judaism, who deals with the issue. But the problem is, to some extent, that he deals with the issue. But the problem is that if Limud Torah is so important, why are women not mechuyev in Limud Torah? That to me is a bigger question. Okay, because the fact is women are learning left and right nowadays,
right?
And even in the Beis Yaakov system, they're learning a lot of Torah Sheba'al Peh. They may not be opening a Gemara point blank daf by daf, but they're for sure learning midrashim and stuff like that, and they're pulling this and pulling that, and so forth and so forth. So the fact of the matter is, there's a lot of issues on this now. Because the truth is, the Indian is much more difficult than people can think. Like for example, if you really look at the discussion, nowadays it says, well, we don't teach Gemara, we don't teach halacha to women like be'in, like Gemara halacha. We teach midrashim and agadita. If you look a lot of people say it's easier to teach women agadita stuff than hilchasa and so forth. But if you look back there are people in history who made distinction the other way around. He said, for sure women, I can't remember, there's people I've seen say, for sure women have to learn Hilchasa.
Neither. I mean...
No, I'm not just talking about the bottom line.
Right.
I'm talking about, for sure women should learn the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch and the Nosei Kelim on this, because that's a halacha. But Parsha and Agadita, that's what they mean they shouldn't be learning. But Hilchasa they have to learn, because they have to be, that comes in the issue of understanding halacha. Halacha is not just knowing the bottom line, here's us or mutter. It's knowing knowing how to make a decision. Right? How do you decide what to do, and so forth and so forth. So the woman has to do that as well. So the truth of the matter is that the issue is a very problematic issue. And if you go through the sugi, you find out that the whole issue is very problematic. But the fact is that I was very proud of my daughter when she learned Gemara. I constantly talk about her learning Gemara and so forth and so forth. Very proud of the fact. And because I obviously have a perception that really limits any prohibition on women learning Gemara. On the other hand, I also recognize that there are people who take the position and learn all the sources the other way, that maintain a very strict definition on women learning Gemara. So the point is that if I throw out a source like this to say this, obviously they'll have an answer and they'll throw a source the other way. So the point is that so why is it that I'm attracted? Because obviously within my understanding of Judaism, my personality and so forth and so forth, there's a reason that I'm attracted to this form of Judaism. That gets into where subjectivity connects to halacha, connects to hashkafa. But the point is that it gets involved in the fact that people don't recognize that. What I'm trying to point out is that before you go look it up in the Shulchan Aruch, there is a whole realm of a world that you've gone through before you opened up that Shulchan Aruch.
Really?
Starting with your personality, starting with your rebellion, starting with how you're taught to look at the Shulchan Aruch,
It's like almost psychologically where you
starting out
came to this point.
Right, starting where you think this Judaism is going to lead to.
That's for Rabbanim though, so that's not for the stum person.
What?
Is that for the stum person or?
No, every person does that.
Yeah.
Every human being does that. Now the fact is that what makes you go to this route? I point out the fact that your subjectivity begins with a Seilach HaRav. Everyone says you have to find yourself a Rav. Well, it says a Seilach HaRav means you choose a Rav. Now why did you choose this Rav and not that Rav?
Right.
Right? So you made that choice. Right? You like that Rav. I don't like that Rav. Everyone, you're Sonnenfeld versus Rav Kook. All these people are big in Rav Kook. They're all Dati Lumi and they're big in Rav Kook. Hey, Rav Kook was big Talmid Chacham, and I have no problems with that. But guess what? Rav Sonnenfeld was also a big Talmid Chacham. Okay, and there were a lot of people who followed him as well. So the point is that if you think you're going to argue it out, I'm telling you that any argument you're going to get, that any Gemara you're going to throw to defend this viewpoint, if you have the other viewpoint, that person could give you give you an argument this way. Now, the truth of the matter is that for some reason, if you have for some reason you were attracted to this viewpoint, and for some reason someone else is attracted to another viewpoint, and that colors the way you move along. Now the truth is in that viewpoint you go through analysis of sources in Hashkafa. It gives you a perspective of Judaism, and then that will give you a perspective in terms of your halachic reasoning.
How do you? I feel like there are opinions that hold stronger ground and are more grounded than others. There are rabbis who are bigger than other rabbis. So you can't, unless I'm wrong, you can pick and choose, but you.
It's not picking and choosing.
Picking
and choosing.
How do you decide who to go by and who?
So picking and choosing it implies it's sort of like picking and choosing for a personal sort of like the smorgasbord. Like a little bit of that, a little bit of that. So that's not what we're talking about. A smorgasbord type of approach. We're talking. What we're talking. You see.
But it is a smorgasbord.
No, you see. This is why it's such a difficult topic, and this is why it's so hard to deal with. If you walk into a world and you're told this is right and this is wrong, and I have the truth and I'm going to tell you the exact truth, this is right and this is wrong, then you're confronting a system that's presented objectively as the truth. Okay? And that's it. Okay? And this is the truth. And it's the truth because this rabbi says it, and this rabbi is the greatest rabbi ever, and therefore, who's arguing with him, right? So that's it. Okay, so that's it. Then you find out that, like I remember once talking to someone, and I said, the Vilna Gaon was considered the greatest Rav of the last 500 years. I said it to Lubavitcher. He says, "What are you talking about? What are you the Alter Rebbe was bigger." Then I went to a Hungarian. What are you talking about? That's Litvak say that. Chasam Sofer was, you want to give the test to figure out who's bigger? I don't know. And for sure, I don't want to. I have no way of knowing. I mean, tell me, why was the Gra considered to be so heads and shoulders? Do you know why? Well, I can tell you, yeah, because he has so much amount of knowledge and so forth and so forth. Well, I'll tell you what, go learn this sefer, or that sefer, or that sefer, or that sefer, or that sefer. And you tell me, here's the, it's not possible that any one human being could know what the Beis Yosef knew. That's why they say, yeah, he must have had help from a malach. Okay. I have no idea how much he knew, but I'll tell you something. When I go to the Mizrach Sinach, when I have a this for him, I'm blown away what these guys know. So I have no way. So if these guys tell me the Beis Yosef do so much more than them, okay, fine. But I have no way of The point is that what happens is people people present a certain doctrine, and they present this doctrine as this is the doctrine, the truth. This is it, black and white. And
what's the problem with having, or why can't we have a, so there's not so much confusion and all this strife and it's like problems. Like, why can't we have a true thing and that's it? Like, deal with something that's true and not have.
Because that's not the way God gave it. That's
but people, but even with
seems so problematic.
But like there are those who like take for me, like I'm a pan Hasidic, I guess I could say. Like I've learned Tanya, I've learned Brass, I've learned Dukut Torah, I've learned Shulchan Aruch, I've learned
and that what that makes you then qualified to create your new system. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you look at these systems and say, okay, do you really, I take a little of this, a little of that, a little of that. Yeah, great. Go into the kitchen and make a casserole, okay, and just say, I like a little bit of this, like a little bit of that, like that, without any perception of what the final product will be, and then serve it for supper and see if anyone eats it.
Although there is a big difference, this is what my dad would say, is that when you're arguing, when you're saying I like a little bit of this, a little bit of that, it's more hashgachic. It's not as halachic.
But the fact is, even in that, the fact is that usually people have more of a system. People take it seriously, have more of a system than you really even recognize, and they have this pretty strong system that they're making their evaluation with. It's not just I like a little bit of this, I like a little bit of that. The fact of the matter is,
Savior speaks to me. I mean,
but so as you get older and questions come up, you're going to find that person that you keep going to. You're not going to go shop around for answers. You're going to keep going to the same person.
But that person may also change.
It happens, but the fact is the big difference is this. You see, the starting point is like this. In a simplistic system, there's a perception of black and white truth. You go ask this person, and this person will give you the truth.
Right.
Okay. What you encounter in this Torah perspective, which takes in the reality of personalities and individuals and so forth, what you have is the individual getting involved in choosing someone to present a certain perspective of the system that is in line with where you're going. Now the truth is that approach is a little bit more problematic because your personality is involved.
Right.
You're attracted to this Rav because there's some reason you're attracted by this Rav, but who says this Rav is a true presenter of the system?
Right.
Okay. So the point is that I've pointed out to people. I pointed out to people. Yeah, sure. Person goes to the system, and it turns out the rabbi they're talking to is a Reform rabbi. Well, why not? Well, the point is that that for some reason you're attracted to that person, but it would not be a true representation of Orthodox Judaism. But when you get into different shittas within Orthodoxy, if you're making a decision, I'm a Lubavitcher, or I'm a Bresler, or I'm a Litvak, or I'm a Dati Lumi person, and so forth, you've made the decision to go learn by this person. As the person is presenting something to you, but the fact is that when you take the big picture, you recognize the person is presenting something to you, not as the truth, although in a certain way it's presented as truth, because no one talks about, well, it's my viewpoint, but the person says, I really think this is what the Torah wants, but the fact that you somehow are attracted to that, and somehow it starts this process where your own individuality and personality gets involved with the objective give and take of the Gemara, of learning, and that's where where it becomes much more analytical and objective, because you see sources and so forth and so forth. So therefore, it's not every sheet in the world. The people who eventually have standings have ways of defending every position they have in the way of learning this Gemara.
So is it wrong when someone gets a Devar Torah and then brings this Shita or that or this
it's not wrong.
Or not Shita, like this, like they'll say like this
it's not wrong. You're presenting many different
impactful hashkafic thing versus and this like speech.
If you present different viewpoints, that's an acceptable Devar Torah. You present different viewpoints, but the point is that you see, it's not so much in your like Beis Hillel knew always quoted Beis Shammai first. Okay, many times I'll present different shitas. Okay, and then I'll present the shita that I personally follow.
Right.
But I'll present the shita. Okay, in let's say hair cover. I heard the following story that there was a committee in Boston that was involved with Bikur Cholim, and the women used to cook for Bikur Cholim, and they were having a problem. What standard were you going to use to know which women can cook for you for when they're Bikur Cholim? So he said, okay, we have to have some standards. So only women who cover their hair will be able to cook for us. That way we'll know they'll be mahu. So one person at this committee was and said, wait a sec. Tara Tversky cooks for us. She doesn't cover her hair. So how could that be the standard? You're going to tell Tara Tversky she's not kosher enough for us? Right? And this became a big issue. And finally he said, no, we have to have some standard that everyone can abide by. So that was it. Only women who cover their hair, and we won't be able to have a Tara Tversky cook for us anymore. So I was told that 7 women on the spot immediately resigned from that committee. Right on the spot. This is obviously years ago. This was years ago. The fact is that why? Because on one hand, generally for most women who didn't cover their hair, they didn't know, it wasn't a halachic decision, whatever reason it was, they didn't cover their hair. So maybe they weren't so makbid on covering their hair, maybe they had to have some kind of standard thing. But on the other hand, okay, that standard is totally off the wall. When you come across Tara Tversky, she didn't cover her hair because that was her halacha.
Right. Okay,
that was it. That was her standard. I have a friend of mine who I mean, the fact is that that's the standard, and that makes a difference. So the point is that there's a difference with a standard or we work out so forth and so forth. But the point is that there's a subjectivity that starts with from your individual. You choose a Rav. And you choose your Rav in this pre-halachic area, which may start with personality. Then you may start getting some attraction to a certain view of hashkafa. Maybe nationalistic. It may be spiritual. You're bound to this. And this creates a certain way of how you learn the Gemaras and so forth and so forth. And then from this whole process, then you get into halacha, which may be much more objective, although analysis of hashkafa may also have these objective discussions. So the point is that it's a process. Now, when you asked that question last week about conservative Judaism, that was part of the process. I mean, the fact is that I could tell you that these are issues that people deal with, and this is struggles that people deal with. This starts with personality. I read, for example, in terms of there's this individual, Smicha from YU, who's known as the Orthodox gay rabbi, okay, because he has Smicha from YU and so forth and so forth. And I read his book, and one of the reasons I read his book is because I wanted to see what kind of argument he has halachically, because what he thinks his halachic argument was. And the fact is that what he says is that he says the only prohibition is actual mishkav zachar, actual anal intercourse. That's the only prohibition. Everything else is mutter, and he lives with the guy and so forth and so forth. I heard this and I said, where's he coming from? I mean, the fact of the matter is yeah, okay, so you can argue that this machlokes. The fact of the matter is anything to do with the arayos. It's not just actual intercourse, but any type of touching is also. The question is this is Rabban and this is Deraisa. Okay, the Rambam holds this is Deraisa, the Ramban holds this is Rabban baby, the Ramban also uses other language which seems applies this to Joyce possibly also. But the fact is that you say, but the truth of the matter is yes, it's true that the major thing is intercourse, but even in any of the arayos, any type of touching that has any sexual connotation is also, and that includes homosexuality. So the same way that you can't kiss a woman who's in nida, even if it's only in this Rabbanan, how do you have any type of contact with another male? And I wanted to see how he dealt with this. Okay, so I read his book. Now here was an individual who was going through a personal struggle.
Right.
Okay, he had personal struggle and so forth and so forth. And the simple thing you just say, I'm going to walk away from Orthodox, but obviously he wanted to keep Shabbos, whatever. He had some connection. So I saw this. He liked being from. He liked the whole lifestyle and so forth. He didn't want to give it up. That's also somewhat of an issue because there's motivation. But then I saw his argument. What was his came to an argument that he says it's Nisr Drobanan, and when there's an issue of Kavod Brias, which he calls Kavod Brias, which is human respect, you don't have to follow Nisr Drobanan. I said, well, so you're saying that telling a person that he can't have a gay relationship, a gay emotional relationship, is a problem in Kavod Brias, so that can't be an Nisr Drobanan. I said, that's a great conservative argument. I think that argument most likely would hold weight in conservative Judaism, won't hold weight in Orthodox Judaism, because there's certain technical issues involved with it. It's not the definition of Kavod Brias. Kavod Brias is not so broad. Okay, Kavod Brias does not make you throw out the whole juncture. Okay, so a lot of problems with that argument. Okay, but the point is that he was struggling. He came to that argument, so forth and so forth. But the fact of the matter is that his starting point, where he started from, came from a legitimate process. Not that his process was just a process of struggling with himself, coming from, what was from or how does he deal with halacha and so forth. This is a process that actually exists within the system.
Right.
His conclusions were, I believe, outside the system, but dealing with the issue was the way we deal with it, and has a lot to do with our own individuality, dealing with an issue, and then struggling with it and so forth. One thing he didn't do, or maybe he did, he spoke to some rabbis that maybe supported him. Maybe he had liberal rabbis, or if you want to call them liberal rabbis, but maybe he had people who said, "Oh, I like your theory." But the fact of the matter is that's where you get its more subjective, more objective analysis. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I sit there and say, "What are you talking about?" It's Machlokas Rishonim, and in other words, I would be much more combative in terms of the objective statement. But the point is that I think he was trying to justify what he wanted to justify too easily, and that's why I put it much more in the conservative camp. But the fact is, the struggle is part of it. But it's really a struggle that many people don't recognize. Right. That we start with our own individuality in choosing the form of Judaism that we want to follow. Okay, maybe it doesn't start with ourselves in terms of where we sent to school and so forth and so forth, but at some point in time, you start looking around and saying, hey, what rabbi am I going to? Now, the truth is you're going to get pressure from people saying, no, you can't go to that rabbi, but the fact of the matter is, then the question is why can't I go to that rabbi?
Right. Okay? Why are some smart like us or put into
and once you start asking those questions, in our world you start opening up. And he said to say, wait a second. That's why in many circles they don't want you to even know about other shittas, right? They don't want that kind of stuff. But the point is that that leads to analysis. But the fact is that before you get the halacha, you have to understand the pre-halacha. And the pre-halacha is the whole structure of how you're going to get to the halacha.